They thought hunger would break him. A young slave boy was given an impossible choice: obey or starve. No food, no mercy, no promises. Just 30 days of empty stomachs and silent suffering, while everyone around him waited for his body to give up. But instead of begging, he prayed. Instead of collapsing, he endured. Day after day, his strength faded, yet his will only grew sharper. By the second week, he could barely stand. By the third, even his breathing became a struggle. Still, he refused to quit, because on the other side of starvation waited something more powerful than fear: freedom. This is the unforgettable story of the boy who risked his life with nothing but faith and determination, and fasted his way out of chains. The iron shackle had worn a permanent groove into Malik's ankle, a pale ring of scar tissue that marked him as surely as the brand on his shoulder. He was 12 years old, though he looked younger. Hunger had a way of stealing years from a body. In the suffocating heat of Master Rashid's estate, where the sun beat down on the cotton fields like a hammer on an anvil, Malik had learned that freedom was not something given. It was something taken, one careful breath at a time. The idea came to him on the night of the new moon, when darkness pressed so thick against the slave quarters that he could barely see his own hands. Old Yusuf, the eldest among them, had been telling stories again, tales of ancient warriors and prophets, of trials that tested the spirit rather than the flesh. Malik listened, as he always did, his stomach growling its familiar complaint. "A fast," Yusuf had said, his voice like dried leaves rustling, "is not just the absence of food. It is the presence of something greater: purpose, will." In my grandfather's time, there was a custom among some. If a slave could prove his discipline, his mastery over his own desires, sometimes a merciful master might grant him something precious. Malik's heart had quickened. Freedom? Yusuf's silence was answer enough. It was a story, nothing more. A whisper of possibility in a world that offered none. But Malik held on to it. The next morning, he approached Master Rashid during the brief moment when the sun rose and the day's brutality had not yet begun. The master was a man of considerable girth, his face perpetually red from wine and heat, his fingers adorned with rings that caught the light like captured stars. He looked down at Malik with the vague annoyance of someone interrupted during their morning coffee. "What do you want, boy?" Malik's throat was dry, but he forced the words out. "Master, I wish to make a bargain." Rashid's eyebrows rose, and somewhere behind him, the overseer, a cruel man named Syed, laughed. "A bargain? You owe nothing. You are nothing. What bargain could you possibly make?" "My discipline," Malik said, the words coming faster now, tumbling over themselves. "I will fast for 30 days, I will. Eat nothing, drink only water. If I succeed, I ask only one thing: my freedom." The laughter that followed was loud and long. Rashid wiped tears from his eyes, his belly shaking. But there was something else in his expression too. Curiosity, perhaps, or the cruel amusement of a man watching an ant attempt to move a mountain. 30 days, Rashid said, still chuckling. "Boy, you'll be dead in a week. You're barely more than bones already." "Then you lose nothing," Malik replied, surprised by his own boldness. "If I fail, I continue to serve. If I die, you have one less mouth to feed. But if I succeed," Rashid leaned back, considering. Around them, the morning sounds of the estate began, the clang of tools, the reluctant shuffle of feet, the sharp bark of orders. The master swirled the coffee in his cup, watching the dark liquid spiral. "Very well," he said finally. 30 days. But you will continue your work. No special treatment, no rest. If you collapse, the deal is off. If you steal so much as a crumb, the deal is off. And I'll have Syed add 20 lashes to your hide for the insult. And when you fail, boy, you'll remember that I gave you this chance. You'll remember that it was your own weakness that kept you in chains." Malik nodded, not trusting himself to speak. His heart hammered against his ribs like a caged bird. "Go on then," Rashid waved him away. "Begin your foolish fast. We'll see how long your discipline lasts when your stomach starts eating itself." The first day was almost easy. Malik had gone hungry before, many times. Missing breakfast was nothing new. He drank water from the communal bucket and went to the fields as always, his hoe rising and falling in the eternal rhythm of labor. The sun climbed, peaked, descended. His stomach complained, but it was a familiar complaint, an old companion. By evening, when the other slaves gathered for their meager meal of cornmeal and beans, Malik sat apart. He watched them eat, memorizing the movement of their hands, the way their faces softened with the simple pleasure of food. Amina, a girl of about his age, with gentle eyes, brought a bowl over. "You should eat," she said quietly. "This is madness." "Maybe," Malik agreed, "but it's my madness." The second day was harder. His stomach had moved past complaint into active rebellion. It cramped and twisted, sending waves of nausea through him. But worse than the hunger was the weakness. His limbs felt heavy, as though he were moving through water. Each swing of the hoe required a conscious effort of will. Old Yusuf worked beside him, moving with the steady efficiency of someone who had learned to conserve every ounce of energy. "The first week is the hardest," he murmured. "Your body screams for food because it doesn't understand what you're doing. But after a while, it learns. It adapts." "How do you know?" Malik asked. Yusuf's smile was sad. "I told you it was a story from my grandfather's time. I didn't say whose story it was. My grandfather. He fasted. He succeeded. And his master freed him." The old man paused, his hands never stopping their work. "Of course, he died 2 years later from sickness. Freedom doesn't heal all wounds, but those 2 years, he said they were worth all the years of bondage before them." By the 5th day, Malik understood what Yusuf meant about the body learning. The acute pangs of hunger had dulled into a constant, throbbing emptiness. He felt lightheaded, distant from his own flesh, as though he were watching himself work from somewhere far away. His thoughts grew strange. He would find himself staring at a cloud or a bird for long minutes, forgetting where he was. Syed watched him with particular interest, waiting for him to fail. "Still standing, boy? Impressive or stupid? I haven't decided which." He cracked his whip for emphasis, the sound sharp in the heavy air. "I'll enjoy welcoming you back to reality with a proper beating when this is done." On the 7th day, Malik collapsed. He had been hoeing a particularly stubborn patch of earth when his vision suddenly narrowed to a tunnel, then to a pinpoint, then to nothing at all. He woke to find himself in the shade, Amina dabbing his face with a wet cloth. "Drink," she commanded, holding a cup to his lips. It was only water, he checked, his mouth probing desperately for any trace of broth or sugar. Just water. He was safe. "Master Rashid says the deal still stands," Amina reported. "You fainted from the heat, not from giving up. You're to rest for 1 hour, then back to work. Her voice dropped. Malik, please, this will kill you. Then I'll die free, he whispered, though even speaking exhausted him. The second week brought a strange clarity. The hunger was still there, an old wound that had stopped bleeding but never stopped aching. Yet Malik found his mind working in new ways. He noticed things he had never seen before. The way ants worked together to carry food, many times their size. The precise moment each evening when the birds stopped singing. The patterns in the bark of the old oak tree at the field's edge. The world became sharper, even as his body grew weaker. At night, he dreamed of food. Elaborate feasts spread before him. Roasted meats glistening with fat, fresh bread still warm from the oven, dates and figs and honeyed pastries. He would reach for them, and they would dissolve like smoke. He would wake with tears on his face, his empty stomach a cavern inside him. Old Yusuf brought him extra water and sat with him in the evenings. Your body is eating itself now, he explained, burning what it can to keep you alive. You must be careful. Too much longer, and the damage may be permanent. 18 more days, Malik said. It had become a mantra. 18 more days, 17 more days, 16 more days. By the middle of the third week, Malik no longer walked so much as drifted. His body had become something strange to him, angular, insubstantial, held together by will alone. His clothes hung on him like sails on a mast. When he looked at his reflection in the water bucket, he saw a ghost staring back. Master Rashid called him to the main house on the 20th day. Malik shuffled slowly across the yard, each step a negotiation with gravity. The master sat on his wide veranda, surrounded by the evidence of his excess. Platters of food, jugs of wine, the soft comfort of cushioned chairs. Sit, Rashid commanded, gesturing to the steps. Malik sat, grateful to rest. I didn't think you'd make it this far, Rashid admitted. He seemed almost impressed, though his expression held wariness too. 20 days. 10 more to go. I'll be honest, boy. I'm beginning to think you might actually do this, and that presents a problem. Malik said nothing, conserving his energy. You're worth money to me, Rashid continued. Not much, given your age and size, but something. Freeing you means losing that investment. It also means every other slave on this estate will know that I kept my word to one of them. He leaned forward. So I'll make you a new offer. End the fast now. Eat, and I'll guarantee you better treatment. More food, lighter work, no more beatings. You'll still be a slave, yes, but a comfortable one. Isn't that worth more than freedom? Out there, you'll starve. In here, you'll at least have a roof and regular meals. The offer hung in the air like ripe fruit, tempting beyond measure. Malik's mind conjured images of food, of rest, of safety. His body screamed, yes, take it, anything to end this torture. But somewhere deeper, in a place beyond flesh and hunger, Malik found his answer. No, he whispered. Rashid's face darkened. Think carefully, boy. Pride is a luxury you can't afford. 10 more days, Malik said, and though his voice was weak, something in it made Rashid sit back. You're a fool, the master said finally, but a stubborn one. Very well. 10 more days. The last 10 days blurred together into a single, endless ordeal. Malik moved through them like a man walking through deep water, every action slowed, every thought coming from very far away. He stopped working in the fields. He simply couldn't anymore. Instead, he sat in the shade of the slave quarters, drinking water, waiting. The other slaves watched over him, taking turns to make sure he didn't collapse and die. Amina sang to him sometimes, old songs about rivers and roads and freedom. Old Yusuf told more stories, though Malik couldn't always follow them. His mind would wander away mid-sentence, chasing strange thoughts through stranger landscapes. On the 28th day, Malik developed a fever. His body shook uncontrollably, and his vision swam. He drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes unsure if he was alive or dead, awake or dreaming. In his delirium, he saw his mother, dead these 5 years, smiling at him, reaching out her hand. "Not yet," she seemed to say. "Not yet, my brave boy." The 29th day, he woke to find Syed standing over him, an unreadable expression on the overseer's face. "Master wants to know if you're going to make it," Syed said. "He's taken bets, actually. I put money on you dying tonight." Malik tried to respond, but managed only a weak movement of his hand. "For what it's worth," Syed continued, his voice lower, "I've never seen anything like this. Stupid, yes. Pointless, probably, but—" He shook his head. "One more day, boy." The 30th day dawned clear and bright, the sky a blue so deep it seemed to sing. Malik watched the sunrise from where he lay, too weak to stand. Every breath was an effort. His heart beat irregularly, stuttering in his chest, like a candle flame in wind. He had done it. 30 days without food. But he wondered if he would live long enough to claim his prize. Around mid-morning, Master Rashid came, surrounded by his household and many of the estate's slaves. Even other landowners had arrived, having heard of the peculiar wager. Malik was aware of them as shapes, as voices, but couldn't quite focus on individuals. "Well," Rashid's voice boomed, "the boy has done it. 30 days has agreed." He paused, and Malik heard something unexpected in his voice. Respect, perhaps, or maybe just surprise. "A deal is a deal. I am a man of my word, whatever else I may be." Hands lifted Malik gently. He felt the shackle on his ankle removed, heard the click of the lock, felt the weight, so familiar he'd stopped noticing it years ago, suddenly absent. Papers were produced, signed. Words were spoken about manumission and freedom. Malik understood them only distantly. "You're free," Rashid said, crouching down so Malik could see his face. "Though I wonder if you'll live to enjoy it. You've destroyed yourself, boy. Was it worth it?" Malik tried to speak, but his voice wouldn't come. Instead, he smiled, a tiny, exhausted movement of his lips. Old Yusuf appeared, beside him, tears streaming down his weathered face. "I'll take care of him," Yusuf told Rashid. "With your permission, Master, I'll nurse him back to health." "He's not my concern anymore," Rashid said, but he didn't sound cruel, just tired. "Do what you will. And old man, take this." He pressed coins into Yusuf's palm. "For food and medicine. I'm not a monster, whatever you all think. The boy earned his freedom. Let him have a chance to live it." The next weeks passed in a fog. Malik learned later that he'd been very close to death. Another day or two of fasting, and his organs would have begun to fail irreversibly. Yusuf fed him carefully, starting with broth and soft bread, gradually building back to solid food. The old man had bought Malik's freedom too, using the last of his saved copper coins and the money Rashid had given him. "We're both free now," Yusuf said, smiling. "Two old fools with nothing but each other." "I'm not old," Malik protested weakly. "After what you've been through," Yusuf laughed, "you're ancient." It took 3 months before Malik could walk without exhaustion, 6 before he regained anything approaching normal weight. The experience had marked him. He would always be thin, always aware of hunger in a way most people never were. But he was free. He and Yusuf made their way north, to a city where former slaves could find work and build new lives. Malik learned to read and write, working for a kind merchant who asked no questions about his past. He grew into a young man, then a man proper, always carrying with him the memory of those 30 days. Years later, when he had his own small shop and a family of his own, people would sometimes ask about the scars on his ankle, the ring of pale flesh that marked where the shackle had been. A reminder, he would say simply, of what I was willing to sacrifice for freedom. But late at night, when his children were asleep and his wife beside him, Malik would sometimes sit in the darkness and remember. He would remember the hunger, the weakness, the moments when death seemed preferable to continuing. He would remember Amina's worried face, old Yusuf's stories, Master Rashid's grudging respect. And he would remember the 30th day, when the shackle fell away and he became, for the first time in his conscious memory, his own person. Whatever came after, the struggles and joys, the failures and successes, they were his choices, his consequences, his life. In the end, Master Rashid had asked if it was worth it. Malik had not been able to answer then, his body too broken, his voice too weak. But the answer, he knew now, was simple. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Freedom was worth everything.